The Jehovah's Witnesses' darkest secret, hidden in plain sight. Imagine waking up one day to realize that everything you've ever been told, everything you've believed, has been part of a carefully constructed reality. A reality so meticulously curated that the very truth of your existence is kept just out of reach. Now imagine that this truth is not only hidden from you, but also from millions of others, right in plain sight. Welcome to a journey where we unravel a secret so profound, so deeply embedded, that the very foundation of a powerful organization could crumble with its exposure. For years, one group has mastered the art of keeping this secret locked away. Yet, like any great secret, it has a way of slipping through the cracks. How can such a significant truth remain concealed for so long? The answer lies in something very simple: control. Not just any control, but control over what information reaches the masses. This is the strategy that has kept members of the Jehovah's Witnesses unaware of the darkness that lurks just beyond the veil of their carefully curated faith. What if we told you that the truth isn't a revelation, but a constructed set of ideas designed to control perception and maintain power? The system works so well that members are kept within a bubble where they truly believe they know the truth, but in reality, they are kept far from it. The key to this web of deception lies in one of the most powerful tools at the governing body's disposal: information control. In a world overflowing with data, one organization has mastered the art of limiting the flow of knowledge. While the world around us embraces the freedom of information, Jehovah's Witnesses live in a world where access to anything that contradicts the organization's narrative is not only restricted, but is considered a threat. In this video, we will dive deep into how the governing body has used information control to construct a reality for Jehovah's Witnesses where the truth is nothing more than a curated set of ideas. Through systematic methods of controlling what their members are allowed to read, believe, and question, they've maintained power and influence over millions. This isn't just about religious belief, it's about the psychology of control. So let's begin this journey into the world of the Watchtower Society, where the truth is not as simple as it seems, and where the manipulation of knowledge is the key to keeping a dark secret hidden in plain sight. What does it mean to truly know the truth? For many, it's a simple idea: what's true is what can be seen, heard, and experienced. But what if the truth you've been taught isn't the whole truth? What if over time the truth has been twisted to fit a narrative that serves only one purpose: control? For Jehovah's Witnesses, this is exactly what happens. The truth they believe in, the teachings they follow, are carefully manipulated to maintain a structure that benefits only a few at the top. The governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses has created a reality where truth is not about what is actually real, but about what they say is real. This truth is not something that you find by seeking knowledge, it's something they give you, controlled and carefully packaged. For Jehovah's Witnesses, the idea of truth is central. It's not just a concept, but the foundation of their entire belief system. They believe that they hold the truth that others are missing, and that following the teachings of the governing body is the only way to salvation. But here's the catch: this so-called truth isn't as straightforward as it seems. Over the years, the governing body has used a well-crafted system of manipulation to define what truth means. They've made sure that the truth they teach is one that can never be questioned. Everything from doctrine to scripture is interpreted through their lens. If something doesn't fit with their narrative, it's either dismissed or twisted until it aligns. This leaves the followers with a version of reality that's skewed, one that is far from the full picture. This manipulation of truth goes beyond just ideas or teachings. It impacts how members view the outside world, how they relate to others, and even how they see themselves. Members are encouraged to trust the governing body above all else, to rely on their interpretation of the Bible as the only valid one. And this leaves little room for independent thought or questioning, ensuring that the governing body's control remains absolute. To fully understand how this manipulation of truth works, let's take a look at the experiences of three women who were once deeply involved in the Jehovah's Witness faith. Their stories offer a glimpse into how the organization controls truth and how it affects the lives of those within it. Sister Snyder was a devout Jehovah's Witness for many years. She grew up in the faith, surrounded by the teachings of the governing body. At first everything seemed clear to her. The truth was simple. There was a right way and a wrong way, and the governing body had all the answers. But as she grew older, Sister Snyder began to have doubts. She started questioning some of the teachings, particularly about the way the organization handled disfellowshipping and shunning. She was troubled by the way members who left the faith were treated. It didn't seem to align with the loving and compassionate God she had been taught about. But when Sister Snyder voiced her concerns, she was quickly silenced. She was told that her doubts were simply a test of her faith. In fact, the more she questioned, the more she was made to feel that she was losing her relationship with God. The governing body's response to her doubts wasn't to offer answers, but to shut her down, making her feel guilty for even thinking differently. Eventually, she found herself leaving the faith, but the process of leaving wasn't easy. Sister Snyder was told that the truth was being rejected, and that she would be lost without it. She was cut off from her family, friends, and the only community she had ever known. It was a painful experience, but it also opened her eyes to the manipulation of truth that kept her trapped for so long. Sister Georges had a similar experience. She had been raised in the Jehovah's Witness faith, believing that it was the one true path to salvation. However, over time she began to notice inconsistencies in the teachings, particularly regarding the governing body's stance on worldly issues. Sister Georges was always encouraged to believe that the world outside of the Kingdom Hall was evil and dangerous. But as she grew older, she started meeting people from different walks of life, people who were kind, caring, and compassionate, yet not Jehovah's Witnesses. She couldn't understand why the governing body would paint such a negative picture of the world when so many people were just trying to live good lives. Her questioning began to grow, but whenever she asked about these inconsistencies, she was met with the same response: it's part of Jehovah's plan. Trust in the organization. But the more she trusted, the more she felt a deep sense of unease. Eventually, Sister Georges left the faith, but not before going through the painful process of questioning everything she had ever been taught. Her journey was filled with confusion and isolation, but it also led her to the realization that the so-called truth had been manipulated to control her, rather than to set her free. Finally, there's Sister Chicky. She had always been a loyal follower of the teachings of the governing body, but she too began to notice things that didn't sit right with her. Like many others, she was taught that the truth was simple, but over time she began to realize that it was anything but. One of the most troubling things for Sister Chicky was the way the organization handled issues of abuse. When a fellow member came forward with a painful story of abuse, Sister Chicky was horrified by how the situation was handled. Instead of providing support, the organization chose to protect its own reputation, dismissing the victim's cries for help. The more Sister Chicky saw the cracks in the organization, the more her faith began to crumble. She realized that the truth she had been given wasn't the truth at all. It was a version of truth designed to keep her and others in line. She left the faith, but not without a deep sense of betrayal and heartache. These stories, Sister Snyder's, Sister George's, and Sister Chicky's, are not isolated. They represent the struggles of countless individuals who have been caught in the web of manipulation that the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses has carefully constructed over the years. The manipulation of truth is so ingrained in their teachings that it becomes almost impossible to see the reality for what it is. But the truth, no matter how manipulated, has a way of coming to the surface. And as these women's stories show, once the truth is seen, there's no going back. The truth isn't what they thought it was, and it's not what the governing body has told them it is. It's something far deeper, something that cannot be hidden, no matter how hard they try. As we continue this journey together, we will uncover more stories, more truths, and more pieces of the puzzle that will help you understand just how deeply the manipulation of truth runs within the Jehovah's Witnesses faith. And just like these women, you might find that the truth you've been told is not the whole truth at all. In the world of Jehovah's Witnesses, knowledge is power, but what happens when that power is controlled and restricted? What happens when the information you're given is not the whole picture, but only the pieces that fit a carefully crafted agenda? This is where the Watchtower Society's control over knowledge comes into play. The organization has a firm grip on what its members are allowed to know, read, and learn. For Jehovah's Witnesses, the official literature, the teachings, and even the way truth is defined all come from one source, the Watchtower Society. And what's really surprising is how much of this knowledge is curated, edited, and sometimes even manipulated to fit a narrative that serves their agenda. The control over knowledge is one of the most powerful tools the Watchtower Society has to maintain its influence. By limiting what members can access, they make sure that people only see what they want them to see, nothing more, nothing less. And this control extends far beyond just what's printed in books or articles. It impacts everything: how people think, how they live, and how they relate to the outside world. When you're part of the Jehovah's Witnesses faith, you're introduced to two key tools for accessing knowledge: the JW Library and the Watchtower publications. These are the primary sources of information that define the faith and guide its followers. The JW Library is an app, a digital tool that Jehovah's Witnesses use to access their literature, including the Bible, magazines, books, and other resources. It's easy to download and use, making it a convenient way for members to stay connected to the latest teachings. On the surface, the app might seem like just a simple way to access religious materials, but it's more than that. The JW Library is a highly controlled platform, carefully monitored to make sure that only the organization's approved content is available. What does that mean for members? Well, it means they don't have access to a wide range of information. They can't just look up anything they want. The library only offers materials that have been authorized by the Watchtower Society, and it actively filters out anything that might challenge or contradict the official teachings. The books, articles, and videos available in the library are all aligned with the views and beliefs of the governing body, ensuring that members are exposed to a narrow, curated version of reality. The Watchtower publications play a similar role. They are the printed literature, magazines, books, and pamphlets that Jehovah's Witnesses study during their meetings and personal Bible studies. Every publication is carefully crafted by the governing body and published under the Watchtower label. These publications are seen as the voice of authority within the organization, and they are treated as the ultimate source of truth. But what's interesting is that these publications are not just religious teachings, they're tools of control. They're designed to shape the way members think about the world and their place in it. By regularly reading these publications, Jehovah's Witnesses are slowly and subtly conditioned to accept the Watchtower's version of the truth without question. And because these publications are seen as divinely inspired by many members, any attempt to challenge or question them is often dismissed as a lack of faith or trust in Jehovah. One of the most striking aspects of the Jehovah's Witness faith is how truth is not something that is discovered, but rather something that is decided and curated by the governing body. This is a central concept in how the Watchtower Society operates. They are the ultimate authority on what is true, and they decide what knowledge is acceptable and what is not. The result of this control over truth is that many Jehovah's Witnesses never question what they're taught. They trust that the governing body has their best interests at heart, and they rely on the organization to provide all the answers. This leaves little room for independent thinking or exploring other viewpoints. The governing body's authority is absolute, and their truth is seen as the only truth. But what happens when you start to question this curated truth? What happens when the pieces don't fit? That's when the cracks begin to show, and that's when the power of control begins to slip away. And as we explore this further, we'll see how the manipulation of knowledge can affect the lives of those who are part of the Jehovah's Witness faith. Throughout the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, there have been moments when the organization made bold predictions about the future, predictions that turned out to be wrong. These predictions, once published in the Watchtower publications, were meant to guide members, but when they failed, something surprising happened. Those past documents disappeared. When Jehovah's Witnesses face a failed prediction, it's not uncommon for the literature that made those predictions to quietly vanish. Old books, articles, and magazines that once spoke with certainty about dates or events are no longer available or are altered. The Watchtower Society doesn't often acknowledge these errors publicly. Instead, the focus is shifted to the present with little reference to past missteps. Why does this happen? It's a way to protect the credibility of the organization. If these failed predictions are removed, new followers never have to face the uncomfortable reality that their leaders once claimed something that didn't come true. This is part of how the Watchtower Society maintains its control over its members by shaping their understanding of history in a way that supports its authority. One of the most well-known examples of this disappearing history is the 1975 prediction. For years, the Watchtower Society strongly suggested that the year 1975 would mark the end of the world, the beginning of God's kingdom, or a major transformation in human history. Many Jehovah's Witnesses made life-changing decisions, such as selling their homes, quitting their jobs, and cutting ties with family and friends, all based on this prophecy. But 1975 came and went, and nothing happened. The promised end did not arrive. For those who had been deeply invested in this prediction, it was a crushing blow. However, the Watchtower Society didn't dwell on it. Instead, the prediction was quietly downplayed, and the evidence, books, articles, and talks, referencing 1975 began to disappear from circulation. As time passed, most Jehovah's Witnesses forgot about it. New publications and newer generations of followers were never fully made aware of the prediction and its failure. This case highlights how the Watchtower Society manages its history, erasing uncomfortable truths and allowing its members to move forward without fully confronting past mistakes. This disappearing history is a significant part of the way the Watchtower Society controls the narrative. By altering or removing past documents, they can keep the focus on the present and maintain the illusion of unbroken accuracy. But for those who have lived through these failed predictions, the scars remain. In the world of Jehovah's Witnesses, controlling what members believe and think is of utmost importance. The organization has a way of managing not just the actions of its followers, but also their thoughts. It's like having a thought police that ensures no one questions the official narrative. One of the most powerful tools of control is the punishment of curiosity. If a Jehovah's Witness begins to ask questions or think independently, it's often viewed as a threat. Asking about things outside the official teachings or questioning the leadership can lead to consequences. Members are encouraged to stay within the boundaries of the teachings without straying into areas of doubt or personal inquiry. This is done to prevent anyone from breaking away from the group's authority. The consequences of independent thinking are severe. Members who step out of line by questioning teachings or exploring other beliefs might be shunned or isolated. In extreme cases, they could face disfellowshipping, a form of excommunication that cuts them off from their community entirely. Apostasy, or the act of leaving or opposing the faith, is seen as one of the greatest betrayals within the organization. Once someone is labeled an apostate, they are treated as though they are dead to the community. This social death is meant to act as a powerful deterrent. The fear of being ostracized keeps members from questioning or leaving, as they would lose their relationships, support, and social ties. Epistemological control is another crucial aspect of the Watchtower Society's grip on its followers. Simply put, this means controlling what members are allowed to know. The organization dictates not only what is true, but what members can learn about. Any information outside the approved literature is either dismissed or deemed dangerous. By controlling access to knowledge, they ensure that members' understanding of the world is limited to what is taught by the organization. The control goes beyond just actions. It extends into the very beliefs and thoughts of members. If a Jehovah's Witness begins to question the teachings, even in their private thoughts, it is considered a serious issue. The Watchtower Society aims to regulate the inner life of its followers, controlling not only what they do, but also how they think. Dr. Andrew Horden, a scholar on religious discipline, has studied how authoritarian religious groups, like Jehovah's Witnesses, maintain control over their members. According to his research, such groups enforce strict behavioral codes and use tools like social isolation and the threat of disfellowshipping to maintain power. By controlling members' thoughts and beliefs, the organization ensures that individuals remain loyal and obedient, with little room for personal freedom or exploration. In this way, the Watchtower Society becomes more than just a faith community. It becomes a system that carefully monitors, controls, and limits what its followers can think, learn, and believe. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught to fear anything labeled apostate. This includes books, videos, or even testimonies that question the teachings of the governing body. Members are warned that reading such material is spiritually dangerous, often said to come from Satan himself. Independent research is discouraged. The organization insists that only their publications like the Watchtower or JW Library contain the truth. But many former witnesses share how private research opened their eyes to contradictions, failed predictions, and hidden truths. These ex-members often face punishment just for asking questions. Their stories show the cost of curiosity in a system that demands full obedience. To keep control, the governing body uses gaslighting, changing teachings, erasing past predictions, and denying past statements. When these are exposed, the blame is shifted onto members for misunderstanding the message. Gaslighting helps hide the truth and protect the organization's image. Questioning members are silenced, and loyal followers are left confused, guilty, or afraid to doubt. In this system, the danger isn't in the outside world, it's in discovering the truth for yourself. And that is exactly what the governing body fears most. Thank you for watching this video. If what you heard today made you think, or if it opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with others, especially those who may still be in the dark or afraid to ask questions. Your voice matters. The more we talk about these things, the more people can break free from fear and find truth for themselves. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. We have more powerful stories, hidden facts, and truth-based discussions that can help others wake up from control and deception. Check the description below for links to related videos and watch the next episode, where we'll go deeper into how the governing body maintains power and what real spiritual freedom looks like. You're not alone on this journey. Stay strong, stay curious, and never stop seeking the truth.